Chapter 1 The Hero's Call. It was an ordinary day in the Lost Woods, and Link had set out to meet Saria at their usual spot. After so many years playing in the Lost Woods as a kid, Link had no trouble traversing the tricky maze. A wrong turn in that part of the forest could either have you falling in a bottomless pit, or have you walking for what seems forever while you're really not going anywhere. However, for yet unknown reasons, as Link rounded a corner, he found himself face to face with a decay scrub. Normally, these creatures are docile and like to do business with travelers. This one, however, was different. The scrub popped up and shot a seed straight towards Link. Almost instinctively, he grabbed the nearest stick, swung at it, and sent it flying right back at his foe. It hit so hard that it knocked the scrub over and it disintegrated before his eyes. Something about this seemed familiar. Not wanting to waste any more time and risking being chewed out by Saria, he dashed past its burrow and continued on. The woods were normally quiet, only changing to protect the sanctuary that sat deep within. He pondered as to what could have caused the scrub to attack. As he got deeper, he found that more and more scrubs were acting funny. It didn't matter how many times he asked himself, he could not think of anything that could cause them to act that way, to go completely against their nature. He had finally reached the entrance to the sanctuary. The path ahead was not clear as he had hoped. He was ambushed by 3 decay scrubs this time. Yet again, this all felt familiar. He ducked and dodged every seed as he looked for the perfect opportunity to run in and knock them off balance. When he was finally able to make his attack, he had also somehow managed to hit and knock all 3 back. Luckily, the sanctuary was just ahead, so he didn't have to worry about any more enemies. Finally, reaching his destination, he walked up the long steps and found Saria sitting on a small stump, playing her ocarina and playing with the spirits of the forest. Not wanting to disturb her and wanting her to finish playing, he crept up to her, making as little noise as possible. "It took you long enough." She lowered the instrument and the music stopped. This made all the dancing sprites scatter. "If you're going to try and sneak up on me, don't do it when I'm playing with the spirits. They can see you and I can understand them." Link stopped his sneaking and walked the rest of the way up to her. "I don't know how you got here without any trouble, but almost every turn had me fighting." Saria got off her seat and looked into his eyes with concern. No words were spoken for quite some time, with Saria and her look of fear and concern. And Link trying to figure out what she was thinking, the only noise was from birds in the trees and bugs flying around. Link finally took a step back and broke the silence. "So, would you have any idea why the decay scrubs have been acting up?" Saria finally snapped out of her little trance and shook her head. "How would I know? I know I can speak with the spirits of the forest, but they would have told me when something odd was happening, and I would have found a way to warn you." The day seemed to pass like nothing as they talked about the troubles brewing. They tried to figure out why it happened as Link was traveling to the sanctuary and not when Saria had made her journey. The sun began to set and they decided to head home. On their way back, Saria finally saw what he was talking about, and she kept seeing the burrows they inhabited. Later that evening, as Link lay sleeping soundly, Saria could be seen sitting atop her home playing her cherished ocarina. Not meaning to, Link awakens to her beautiful musical score and joins her onto her roof. "What's wrong?" Link proceeded to wipe his eyes, erasing any signs of sleeping. He then became fully aware of his surroundings. "Why are you up so late?" All Saria could do was look him in the eyes with the same look of concern on her face as before. "I had an awful dream, and I think you should see the great decay tree. The forest is changing, and I have a feeling you'll have to leave because of it." She put her ocarina down, grabbed Link, and held him tightly in her arms. "If you have to leave, I don't know what I'll do." Link sat beside her, and she proceeded to lay her head in his lap. She then began to doze off. "Besides, who else would I play with? Mido is a fool and a klutz." Link gave a smile before he too fell asleep. Morning came and Link awoke to find himself in Saria's roof. He looked around and found that Saria had left. He decided that after his morning routines, he would do as Saria wished and would make the journey to see the great decay tree. Before he had set off On his journey, however, Link decided to stop by her place to see if she was there. He knew she wouldn't, but he told himself that it never hurt to check. The only other place she could possibly be was their usual spot. He wondered why she would be there when the forest was acting up. Nevertheless, he set out anyways. He needed to let Saria know he was going to take her advice and see the old tree. He also wanted to ask her if she would join him, seeing as how she might be right, and he wanted to spend as much time with her as possible in case he did have to leave. He decided that he would trek through the Lost Woods before heading to the decay tree. Amazingly, not one scrub was to be found. Not even the burrows from yesterday were there. He finally came upon a gloomy Saria sitting on her stump, holding her legs in her hands. She heard Link as he approached. "I don't think I can. I don't think I could handle the news if I am right." A tear began to run down her face. Link saw this, approached her, and lightly brushed it away. "Don't worry, if it comes to that, I'll make sure I'll come back safely." She got up and walked away without saying anything else. Link just stood there. He wanted to cry with her, but he needed to be strong right now. He needed to be able to show her that nothing will be able to stop him. Link returned to his home to grab all of his traveling gear, a knife, some food, and his life savings in rupees, which was only 300, and he set out to get his, or rather Saria's, questions answered. As he walked past Saria's house, he considered whether or not to check in on her. Deciding it would be best not to, he walked on. The path ahead of him was long, and depending on what happens, could be even longer. He didn't know what to expect, but he made a promise that he had to keep no matter what.